Hey guys, it is April 17th, and this is the science lesson for 7th and 8th for April 17th. We are going to be going over more common flower families, and we're starting on page 50 of your book, hopefully getting through that section. What's that section? It is section, well, this is 2.4. There we go. Flowers of the meadow and of the garden. And I'm going to readjust this so I can get to my book and put it here a little bit closer to me where I don't have to keep glancing off. Oh, yeah, I'm the poor filmmaker. Sorry, guys. All right, so we're going to start off with the buttercup family. Then we're going to go over the mint family, the honeysuckle family, ending up with the parsley family and the milkweed family. And then, on Monday, April 20th, we'll start with monocot family. So, of course, we're still in angiosperms, meaning those are seed-bearing, flowering plants. And before we get any further into our lesson, let's take a brief word of thanks to the Lord in prayer. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us together to learn more about you, to learn more about flowers, and to just learn in general about your creation. Because the more we learn about you, the more wisdom you can give to us about ourselves, hopefully just to teach us that most of the time our heart is just lying and deceitful, even to us. The world tells us to listen to our heart, but the Holy Spirit tells us to listen to you, Lord, and to listen to your wisdom. And Father, I just pray that you'll grant us the wisdom of heaven. We love you in Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, so the buttercup family. You can see this family quite a bit right now. Lots of people, lots of farmers have these blooming in their pasture. I know a few years ago it became this incredible problem. You've got these buttercups that are blooming everywhere in farmers' in their pasture, and farmers don't like buttercups. Of course, you say, but they're pretty. The reason why farmers don't like the buttercups is because they have no nutritional value whatsoever for those cattle, which is really important to a farmer. So let's look at the members of the buttercup family, which you all might have even played with the buttercups. I remember taking a buttercup, you stick it under a person's chin, and if there was a reflection of yellow on your chin, it was basically meaning that you liked butter. That's what I did. As you got older and more vicious with each other, you'd say if it reflected yellow, then you're a coward or you're a scaredy cat. Neither one does anything. It just basically is the lighting involved as you're holding the buttercup. But anyway, buttercups usually have 5 rounded petals or petal-like sepals that form a cup-shaped blossom. They're herbaceous plants, and they're characterized by dry fruits and by leaves that divide into 3 main sections, giving them the appearance of a birdfoot. Because of their leaves, the buttercup family is also known as the crowfoot family. So unlike their butter-colored namesakes, though, and this might be why they're called more of a crowfoot family for some scientists or some people who categorize it, is because buttercups aren't just yellow. They can have red, white, blue, or purple flowers, and you can see on page 50 different colors there of the buttercups. You've got the columbine, which we really don't have. I mean, you could have it as an ornamental plant. That's the state flower of Colorado. You have the peony, which here in the Cumberland Mountains, the Appalachians, lots of older people call them pineys or peonies. I call them a peony, but and you have the larkspur, and then you just have the traditional buttercup. So many species in this family have numerous pistils and stamens that form a bushy cluster or a button right in the center of the flower. So it's, once again, those petals are more like sepals, where inside is a cluster, cluster of pistils and a cluster of stamens right in the middle. Most buttercups bloom in the spring and grow in damp places. The most common buttercup can grow from 1 to 3 feet tall and may be found in fields, woods, or along roadsides. Many buttercups, especially larkspurs, are poisonous to both cattle and to humans. So once again, this is another reason why farmers don't really like them in their pasture. And so a lot of the yellow flowers that you're seeing bloom right now the ones that aren't on a woody stem. It's herbaceous, that meaning it's got a more planty stem, I guess. Are buttercups that you're seeing right now. Now, this is funny, it's going to be like a punny in just a second, but we're moving on to the mint family, and I have several types of mints growing in pots outside on my patio. Do I use them? Not at all, but I like to pick them or grab them when we're on the patio sitting or when I'm walking or whatever, because I just like the smell of them. We have at least just naturally, I think I counted like 10 different mints that grow naturally in our area. The one most commonly found here that I see is what old people call spearmint, and you can find it growing in wet areas. Around my creek, just growing wild, is all kinds of spearmint. And its leaves, if you look there, they don't really give you a good picture of the leaf. That's one reason why I was going to bring some. But its leaf looks really common to some other stuff that's not a mint. But, it is a common plant. You could probably find it around a creek. And but it's mint, lemon balm, catnip, all kinds of things like that grow naturally. So that could be and some of you might play with it, some of you might not. The reason why most gardeners grow it in a pot is because if you plant it in the ground, that stuff goes everywhere. And it's very invasive. And, around in pastures and places like that, it's not that big of a deal, or along a creek bank, because, cattle will just eat it or keep it cut down. But if you are trying to put it in a flower bed, your flowers be taken over by the mint. So mints are a common plant that often have a pleasant odor caused by oil in their leaves and their stem. And if you picked it, you would immediately smell the aroma of spearmint or peppermint. If you crush them in your fingers, if you crush the leaves in your fingers, you could use that odor to identify the plants. But it's not just mint. There's lemon balm. Catnip really doesn't, to me, it's a type of mint, but it doesn't have this weird smell to me. And I have experimented with catnip, and either I have the weirdest cats in the world, but my cats just ignore catnip. They just, maybe it's because there's too much mint around. But the stems of mints, that one way you can look at them and you can identify it as a mint before you just pick the leaves, is that their stem is square, and it's really kind of weird looking. So they have a square stem and stout. Their flowers come up and form a spike like this, and they're normally a purpley. They're not like this gorgeous, beautiful flower. So they're normally white, maybe a shade of purple, like up here. I've had sage as well, and my sage didn't look that pretty. But catnip is, so the mint family includes herbs. So basil, sage, marjoram, thyme. My thyme has tiny, tiny little leaves on it that we use. So this catnip is a mint to which most cats are attracted to it, even big cats. Although some mints with stinging hairs are called nettles, not all plants called nettles are in the mint family because they lack that very characteristic square-looking stem. So that's a way to just look at a mint. So they give you some explanation of how, what we use mint for. Like we use it in toothpaste, we use it in gum, we use it to scent stuff, I guess. So that's mint, but that's a very common plant. Some of you have probably come running across it and picked it, or maybe your mom might have it as an herb, or one of these herbs. Moving on to the honeysuckle family. Honeysuckles around my house have not started blooming yet. I've heard some people say theirs are, so it probably just depends how much sun you're getting. But the honeysuckle family contains some of the most fragrant wildflowers. Honeysuckles get their name from their sweet nectar. If you pinch off the base of the flower and pull out the pistil, you can see like a little drop of nectar coming out. And if you suck that little drop of nectar, it is super, super sweet. So honeysuckles have an abundance of beautiful trumpet-shaped flowers, which may be white, yellow, purple, pink, or bright scarlet. After pollination, these blossoms are replaced by red, yellow, black, or white berries. The leaves of honeysuckles grow apart each other or go opposite each other in pairs. Because they grow so compactly, these easy-to-grow plants seldom need pruning. But then, so I want you to look at honeysuckle. On page 51, you have a native honeysuckle. It's that reddish blue, that reddish pinkish orangey flower, and typically people call that a trumpet vine. And there is a tree behind our school that has that trumpet vine growing up in it, and it's a native plant. It's really pretty. But then sometime in the past, we've gotten in trouble a lot. Somebody introduced a non-native plant. So when you think honeysuckle, you're probably not thinking of this purpley pinkish orangey color. You're thinking of the yellow and white Japanese honeysuckle. And the regular honeysuckle wasn't that big of a deal. The Japanese honeysuckle is a non-native plant that was introduced here, and it grows prolifically. It has an evergreen flower or evergreen leaf to it, and it's just can take over things. So just kind of like kudzu, it's like we should never have introduced honeysuckle or kudzu in our country, but oh well. So the bush honeysuckle will actually make small yellow blossoms to attract bees, while the coral, the trumpet, or trumpet honeysuckle attracts hummingbirds with their blossoms that are red on the outside, orange and yellow on the inside. So just remember, when you see those orangey, reddy, yellowish flowers, those typically are a non-invasive native species. The honeysuckle you see absolutely everywhere. One reason why you see it absolutely everywhere with the yellow and white blossoms is because it's a non-native, highly invasive, very fragrant plant called the Japanese honeysuckle. And yeah, it's all fun and good until it totally covers your entire garden. Then viburnums, which include the snowball bush, are shrubs or small trees with clumps of white, cream, or pink flowers that are used in borders. And one reason why they're used in borders is because they have this really pretty blossom in the summer, and then in the autumn their leaves turn a really bright color, and then they actually produce dark blue or red or purple or yellow berries that also look really pretty all winter. So that's a viburnum. If you've ever looked at those, some people call them a snowball bush. I've heard people call hydrangea snowball bush too, but snowball bushes are blooming probably right around now. That's a viburnum. Moving on to the parsley family. And if you look at the parsley family, they have a strange looking bloom. So members of the parsley family have clusters of small flowers arranged in umbels, which comes from the Latin word umbella, and that's where we get our word called umbrella, because you can kind of look at the umbel and the umbella, and it looks like an umbrella. And this is kind of what a flower, the flower looks like. And they've given you a close-up of it. You have probably played with one of these umbels or one of these parsley family, which is Queen Anne's lace, which you have a picture of. And Queen Anne's lace is technically a wild carrot, don't eat it. But Queen Anne's lace is the flowers that typically lots of people use, and we can demonstrate what is it called? Transpiration? It's going out of my brain. Where you're basically can put, if you cut it at a joint and it doesn't dry out and the sap doesn't cover it up, if you can just like cut it, immediately stick it in some water and then put some dye in that water, that will show transpiration as it's bringing it up from the through the stem, and it will actually turn the Queen Anne's lace a pretty color. It worked, I don't know, Queen Anne's lace, I guess being white, it works really well with that. You can actually do it with any type of flower, be it a mum, be it a daisy or whatever, it'll turn somewhat. But Queen Anne's lace just really seems to bring it up and bring that food coloring up. So Queen Anne's lace isn't blooming right now. It's going to bloom more in June. So maybe you can find some then. So most members of the parsley family have compound umbels in which the umbels are attached to other stems to form a larger umbel. So you can see single one versus compound one there that you have a picture of. Plants of the parsley family are found in most regions of the world. And you can see many are used for food, seasonings, or medicines. We eat the stalk of celery, that's an umbel. We also eat the roots of parsnips and carrots and the seeds of caraway. Dill, if you like pickles, it flavors pickles and soups. Coriander and fennel are also both used as seasoning and in medicines, but you don't want to taste every member of the parsley family. For two poisonous varieties are poison hemlock and water hemlock, which are totally different from a hemlock tree. We have tons of beautiful hemlock trees here. But poison hemlock, water hemlock, those are poisons. And it was one of those type of hemlocks you may remember from history, Plato, right? All right, I'm going to get my philosophers mixed up because it's been a while since I saw it. But I think it's called Plato was the one that was given the option of either being abandoned or, basically ostracized from Athens. He could either leave Athens and never return, live with the barbarians, which is what most Athenians thought of the other Greeks, or he could drink hemlock. And so there's a famous painting of basically Plato's last lesson, and it's where he's describing what is happening to him as the hemlock, as poison is coursing through his body, which is really macabre and sad, but that's philosophers for you. So the most common tall weed is Queen Anne's lace, which we've talked about, which is a wild carrot or a bird's nest. It has amazingly complex flowers that you can look at under a magnifying glass. It's really cool. To distinguish it from the poisonous plants in this family, look for the darker flower in the middle of the central umbel of Queen Anne's lace. So that kind of distinguishes it from a poisonous one. Then we move on to milkweed. Milkweed has a really unusual flower, as you can see right there. Every flower has 5 nectar horns, each consisting of a cup-like hood and a slender crest horn and a petal that hangs downward from each nectar horn. The plants themselves may vary considerably in appearance. They may be bushy, shrubs, dainty vines, succulent plants that almost look like a cacti. In the autumn, they have large seed pods that will open, and it looks like all this silky, flossy stuff comes out of it, which can be caught up in the air and blow away. Milkweeds may also reproduce by way of a creeping root. So the common milkweed that you see there can pretty much be found anywhere in a field or a meadow during the summer. If you crack open this thing's leaves, you're going to have this sappy mess on your hands, and that's where it gets its name, as from milkweed. The most common milkweed is food for caterpillars of 4 species of North American butterflies, including the monarch butterfly, which we read, I think we watched its migration. They go to Mexico and back and forth. And then ornamental milkweed varieties include the bloodflower, string of hearts, and the Madagascar jasmine. So that was kind of a short science lesson for today. Actually, we're approaching almost 20 minutes, which is about normal for us. And that's going through some of the, not all, but some of the more common plant families. Hopefully you all are continuing on to look for wildflowers or just to see what you can find. I can't remember what date I put on there, and I don't have my wildflower thing with me closely but hopefully by next week we'll have better idea of when you can turn in things, because you all do need some feedback on some of these quizzes and the things that you've been doing. So I hope you all have a good day, And please get out in the sunshine and the air if it is sunshiny on Friday, and make sure you stay well, get plenty of sleep, and just enjoy this time with your family. So have a great day, guys. See ya.